All right. Good afternoon. Our guest in a short while will be Olga Cherevko, who, as you know, is OCHA spokesperson in Gaza. She'll be joining us live from Deir el-Balah in the Gaza Strip to brief you, obviously, on the humanitarian situation there and what she has been able to see with her own two eyes. Then on just a programming note, on Monday, Tom Fletcher will be our guest. As you know, he is the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator. We may very well also have a briefing Monday afternoon with the Comptroller of the United Nations to talk to you about the UN budget. The exact format is yet to be worked out, but it will be likely Monday afternoon. As a reminder, on Tuesday, our briefer will be the Secretary General of the United Nations. He'll be holding his annual pre-General Assembly press conference. That presser with the SG on Tuesday will be in person only. Sorry? Noon. And he'll be on time. He will be on time, yes. I may be a little late, but he'll be on time. This morning, speaking of the Secretary General, he rang the peace bell for the 80th session of the General Assembly here at UN headquarters, warning that today peace is under siege, conflicts are multiplying, civilians are suffering, human rights and international law are being trampled. He said we must act now to silence the guns and amplify diplomacy. Mr. Guterres said that the peace bell reminds us that even the smallest contributions can forge something enduring. Even in a fractured world, we can come together and let peace ring, he said. Our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs report that heavy strikes continue across Gaza City, hitting buildings, houses, and tents, and further adding to the already devastating toll on civilians. After a span of 24 hours, by yesterday 2 p.m. local time, over a span of 24 hours, by yesterday 2 p.m. local time, colleagues monitoring population movement counted almost 11,000 people moving from northern Gaza southward. Along those displacement routes, our team are stationed at 3 points, providing direct support or referral services to children who've been injured, orphaned, or separated from their caregivers, while multiple sites providing services have had to suspend operations or relocate. We are helping humanitarian partners keep community kitchens open, helping them distribute clean water and provide health care to people in Gaza City and elsewhere across the Gaza Strip. Yesterday, I think some of you had asked me about deliveries. UN team successfully delivered fuel to a series of critical service providers in Gaza City. This included hospitals and other health facilities, as well as installations supporting water pumping, trucking, and desalination, the management of solid waste, and also for the management of solid waste. OCHA says that humanitarian community remains committed to serving people in need wherever they are, based on what they need, regardless of whether parties have labeled the area they're sheltering in as dangerous, humanitarian, or otherwise. In a statement today, UNICEF reported that over 10,000 children in Gaza have been diagnosed with acute malnutrition in the past 2 months alone. The agency warned that if disconnected from the current treatment, there is a high risk that some of the 2,400 children currently being treated for severe acute malnutrition in the area could starve to death. And of course, you'll hear a lot more about this from Olga in a few minutes. Southern Lebanon, following requests from the government of Lebanon, our peacekeeping deminers started humanitarian demining in 2 minefields this week. Those were near the Blida and Maroun Aras. Together, these minefields spread across 18,000 square meters. Such operations are crucial in minimizing risk to civilians who live or visit areas close to the Blue Line. As part of the mission's ongoing efforts to build capacity of the Lebanese armed forces, the UNIFIL Maritime Task Force ships started hosting Lebanese Navy officers this week for maritime operations. In other training activities this week, Lebanese Army personnel learned about detecting and handling unexploded ordnance, improvising explosive devices, and landmines. UNIFIL peacekeepers yesterday discovered an unauthorized munition and a 120 millimeter grenade in Sector East. Earlier this week, peacekeepers found a weapons cache in Sector East containing an artillery cannon, munitions, aviation bombs, and explosives. All of them were referred to the Lebanese armed forces as per protocol. UNIFIL peacekeepers are also continuing daily to observe IDF military activities in the area of operations. Yesterday, they observed 71 Israeli Defense Forces vehicles moving near Arab al-Alwais. They also reported direct fire across the blue line from Israeli positions impacting Markaba and Hula in Sector East. Moving to recent developments in South Sudan, which we were following very closely, I can tell you that our peacekeeping mission there notes the announcement of legal charges against First Vice President Riek Machar and 7 other individuals, and that those charges were filed by the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. The mission reminds us that any judicial proceedings should adhere to international standards of fairness and transparency with full respect of the rule of law and human rights. Today is also the 7th anniversary of the revitalized peace agreement, and as security and political tensions continue to escalate across the country, the UN peacekeeping mission there calls on all parties to place the interests of their people first, resolve political deadlocks, reduce violence, and recommit fully to implementing that agreement. And as it is more important now than ever that the country's leaders put the interests of their people first. We've also been sounding the alarm on the humanitarian crisis in South Sudan, where half of the population is severely food insecure and where there is a displacement crisis and an economic meltdown. Turning to Ukraine, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tells us that today we, along with our humanitarian partners, delivered aid to a frontline community in the Kherson region for the first time in 7 months. The convoy delivered 15 metric tons of aid to more than 1,000 residents. Supplies included emergency shelter, hygiene kits, power station, as the community remains with no electricity due to repeated attacks. OCHA says that since January of this year, 22 convoys have brought assistance to some 22,000 people in frontline areas across the region. Meanwhile, between yesterday and early morning today, several people were killed or injured, including health workers, in attacks across frontline regions. That's what local authorities are telling us. And civil infrastructure was also damaged. Our humanitarian colleagues also tell us that the evacuation of civilians from frontline areas continues. In the first 10 days this month, more than 3,000 people, including 650 children, were evacuated from Donetsk region, with many receiving support at transit sites in Kharkiv and Dnipro. And this afternoon, the Security Council will meet at 3 p.m. for a briefing on threats to international peace and security. Rosemary DiCarlo, our Undersecretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs, will brief. And this morning, the council members heard from Izumi Nakamitsu, the head of the Disarmament Department. She briefed on the elimination of the chemical weapons program in Syria, speaking about progress being made lately and mentioning that between March and August, there have been 4 visits by members of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons to Syria. They did this to consult with relevant authorities and to visit declared and suspected chemical weapons sites. She underscored that the UN will continue our part to uphold the norm against the use of chemical weapons everywhere and at any time. Further update to Afghanistan. And UNICEF today notes that children are bearing the heaviest burden after the powerful earthquake that struck Kunar and Nangarhar provinces the end of last month. The agency points out that at least 1,172 children have reportedly died, accounting for more than half of the entire death toll. In addition, 45 children have been separated from their families, and 271 children are newly orphaned. UNICEF added that overall more than 500,000 people have been impacted in Afghanistan, and among them 263,000 are children who now face heightened risks. UNICEF has been providing emergency care through strengthened clinics and mobile health, as well as nutrition teams delivering trauma care, and they're doing a lot more. Also on Afghanistan, UNHCR today said that returns under adverse circumstances from Pakistan are rising sharply at the very same time that communities are struggling to recover from the earthquake, as many of the returnees went back to that same area. UNHCR says that as Pakistan resumed implementation of its, quote, illegal foreigners repatriation plan, end quote, more than 500,000 Afghans have returned since April, including 143,000 in August alone. In recent weeks, the pace has surged further. In the first week of September, 100,000 people crossed back from Pakistan, stretching the capacity to its limit. However, in recent days, UNHCR has been forced to temporarily suspend operations at its cash and support centers across Afghanistan as the de facto authorities in that country have been preventing national female UN staff members from entering UN compounds. As I told you yesterday, UNHCR says it is not possible to serve women without female staff and reiterates its call for the immediate lifting of these restrictions and for an urgent solution to be found. Turning to Myanmar, another grim report from UNICEF. They tell us that they're extremely concerned by reports of an overnight attack on a boarding school in Rakhine State that reportedly killed and injured children as they slept. UNICEF notes that the attack adds to a pattern of increasingly devastating violence in Rakhine, with children and families paying the ultimate price. And also want to flag a report from the... Welcome, Michelle. I want to flag a report from the UN Human Rights Office today, released about the deep situation in the DPRK, showing that the overall human rights situation in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea has not improved over the past decade and in many instances has degraded, bringing even more suffering to the population. This latest report, covering the period since the 2014 UN Commission of Inquiry findings, points to the introduction of more laws, more policies, and more practices that are subjecting North Koreans to increased surveillance and control in all aspects of life. The report, based on hundreds of interviews by the office, along with supporting material, says political prison camps continue to operate and the right to food continues to be violated, with some state policies making hunger worse. Full report is online. International Day to flag to you. Today is the International Day for South-South Cooperation. In his message, the Secretary General says on this day, we celebrate the growing momentum of opportunity, innovation, and solidarity across the global South, adding that South-South and triangular cooperation are engines of progress vital to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, and recognizing at the same time the responsibilities of developed countries to help address rising inequalities and advance sustainable goals, sustainable development. We have money today. Got a good quiz for you. One of this country's favorite sports is morengi, a traditional martial arts that involves bare-fisted striking, kicking, and sometimes headbutting. Sounds fun. No? The UN? Aha! You're here all week, Michelle? Always. If only you could make some interesting meetings. No, thank God we don't do that here. It is also the fourth largest island in the world. No. Yes. It's the largest island country, but it is the fourth largest island in the world. And Australia is a continent, Michelle, before you ask. Okay. All right, Deji.
Yes, a couple of questions. Today, the GA adopted a resolution that would endorse the New York Declaration. What is the response of the Secretary General
The New York
on this
Declaration on...
two-state solution?
Yeah, I just want to make sure you know what you're asking about. I think the Secretary General has been very clear in his support of the two-state solution and very clear in his support of doing anything to ensure that we don't lose hope. And that we don't lose hope in the face of the reality that we're living in, that the two-state solution can still be achieved.
In the connection of that, yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu signed the plan to ratify the E1 the settlements, and also he said there will be no Palestinian state. What is the reaction from the Secretary General on that?
Look, first of all, we believe that there will be two states. We continue to believe it. It will demand hard work. It will demand sacrifice. Most of all, it will demand political courage. We've been very clear on our stand against Israeli settlements in the occupied West Bank that are maintained and established against international law. As obviously, looking at the plans for the increase of this E1 settlements further entrench the occupation, they fuel tension, they systematically erode the viability of a Palestinian state that we were just talking about. And we once again call on Israel to cease all settlement activities pursuant to its obligations under international law, and reaffirm the advisory opinion issued by the International Court of Justice in 2024.
One last question, also in connection of that. During high-level week, at least for now, the speakers list suggests that the Israeli Prime Minister is going to be here on Friday. Will the Secretary General meet with the Prime Minister?
The Secretary General's bilateral is still being worked out. Javier, and then Abdelhamid.
More on that, of the General Assembly. Any update on the Palestinian delegation?
No, this is an issue we have raised a number of times with the host country, reminding them of their obligation under the treaty, but nothing else to report. Abdelhamid.
Thank you, Steph. First, are you aware of what's going on in the city of Tul Karim in the West Bank?
Yes, we're aware of the increased activity by the IDF, and we're concerned at the treatment of the Palestinian civilians in that area.
Okay. Today is the 707th day of the genocide war, but at least I think the number of days must be surface in your briefing. And today also 50 Palestinians were killed, including 17 in Gaza city, 14 from one family, in one house, completely obliterated. These crimes, why? I can't believe that killing Palestinians became no news. Why?
Well, what is news, what is made news is up to journalists, what is news or not news and what they report on. We continue to report on the tragic situation in Gaza. We continue today. We talked in the beginning about the ongoing bombardments. We report on the figures that are given to us by the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza. I think we continue and will continue to publicize the situation on the ground. Alex, and then Pam.
Thanks, Steph. I'm wondering if you have any updates on the possible meeting between the Secretary General and Qatari Prime Minister.
That's scheduled right now, late this afternoon, around 6:30, but things shift.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, let's stay in the back, and then we'll come back up front. Yes, sir.
About the detention of UN personnel by the Houthis. On August the 31st, the Secretary General said 11 were detained, then the number increased to 19, I believe. And in today's Security Council press statement, 21 were detained. I have several questions. First of all, is 21 accurate? Secondly, why the increments? And thirdly, do you have a breakdown of the detainees? Thank you.
There are, and I should have the numbers with me. We'll get them to you before the briefing. I think we're 20 in terms of those that were the recently detained in the last few, recently detained. And in terms there, if you'll recall, there have been some that have been detained now for a long number of years. So I think it's about 40 all told. And it's not only, there's UN staff, but it's important to remember that there is staff from international NGOs, staff from civil society, staff from diplomatic missions that continue to be arbitrarily detained. We continue to very publicly advocate for their immediate release, and we're doing so also privately via other channels.
Steph, I was talking about the additional detentions since August 31st. Is 21 accurate?
Yeah, I think it is 20, given that we had our one international staff member released yesterday, but I will get you the exact number before the end of the briefing. Pam.
Steph, thank you. The IAEA and Iran have made a tentative agreement on access to monitors and surveillance within Iran's nuclear facilities, and but the EU3 had initiated the snapback. Since the UN was involved in this agreement, is there anything the UN says about whether that goes forward or not?
The Secretary General is not a party to the JCPOA. I think his message has been clear, is that to use this time for diplomacy. We welcomed the agreement, recent agreements agreed to by the IAEA and Iran. What the Council will decide is what the Council will decide. Yes, Madam.
I have a question on the Taliban rules of men not being allowed to help female victims of the earthquake. Reuters says that UNHCR is in negotiations with the Taliban on reopening those centers that you just mentioned. Has the Office of the Secretary General been in communications with the Taliban leaders?
Yeah, I mean, the Office of Secretary General has been in touch with de facto authorities through, as represented by the political mission in Afghanistan. I think yesterday I gave a pretty detailed update of what the political mission, UNAMA, was doing in Kabul, and very proactively engaging with the de facto authorities to get all of this reversed and as quickly as possible. I mean, it is not just, again, the basic principles of humanity in this organization. It's also hampering our efforts to bring relief to all those who need it in Afghanistan. All right, any other questions? Excellent. We will go to our guest. If we could put Olga on the screen.